having box score with me.
The question is, how are you doing?
Well,
That was a pretty hot start and a pretty something.
yeah. How about we just get ready for the weekend against Miami and move on and take the win? That's about all I'll say about that game. I mean, we did some things well, but we did a lot of things not well, and we found a way to win. Sometimes that happens in baseball. Obviously, we have to play better, and our guys know we need to play better, but we're somehow playing okay and finding ways to win games. So we have a great group. Learned a valuable lesson in there tonight, and I told them, I said, you jump out 10-0 like that, and you start coasting, and the next thing you know, time runs at the plate. And that's a credit to Kevin Acey, always being ready. He goes 3-0, takes a deep breath, strike, game over. So, we say there's no such thing as an ugly win, but if there is such thing as one, that would be one of them.
As far as to getting something out of that, is that what you take forward? Is an example for those guys to see with their own eyes? Because you preach it all the time.
Yes, 100%. The importance of not. I was most disappointed giving at bats away. We threw a lot of guys really. Besides certain guys, there were some guys that pitched today that hadn't pitched a lot recently. But I thought we had a chance to deliver a knockout punch, and after we went out up 10-0, I thought our at-bats, for the most part, we're pretty stubborn with our at-bats. We're going to walk. We're not going to give at-bats away. And I thought this was one of the first times this season that we had just had some bad at-bats collectively, 1 through 9. And went away from what we were so good at, and that's having just a great approach, finding a way to get on base. But it happens. I've been coaching long enough too that, I remember in 07, we were like 38-8, and Campbell was like 8-38 one year, and the next thing you know, we look up and they beat us. So I'm just glad that I went back there and we still got a win.
How do you explain Patrick's success offensively this season? He's
just a leader, hard worker, hard to pitch to. Small strike zone, gotten stronger, can play multiple positions, but he's like a Mikey Madej. I mean, that's kind of the spot he's filled. He can do anything. He can play on the dirt if we need him to play on the infield. But man, he is such a team guy. Like if you just go back and look at pictures, even when he's not playing, he's the first one out of the dugout, first one giving the guy 5, and that's important. Culture and caring about your teammates, and if you're not in the game, still being in the game, and that's how Patty's been. And guys like that in North Carolina, they get rewarded. But he's worked too to become a better hitter.
Coach, talking about getting on base, Casey Cook, you moved him up for the GT weekend to leadoff spot. What kind of went into that decision, and especially with his propensity to just hit some singles through the gap?
Yeah, I want him to hit more doubles. But he has gotten hits. He's gotten on base. And we feel like Vance has been really close. His batting average is a little misleading. He's been stinging some balls, and the exit velocity's been good. And he's really good with runners in scoring position, but he hadn't been up a lot with runners in scoring position in that leadoff spot. Even though Colby and them gotten on some, I wanted him to have more opportunities, but that could still change some. We're still trying to figure out some things. Johnny's out, for I don't know how long he's out with, I don't know, am I allowed to say? I guess I can. COVID protocols, but I don't know what I'm allowed to say anymore or not. All I know is he's not available to play. He's unavailable. We'll get him back, but he's unavailable until they tell me he's available. And I'm old school, and that's the case. It stinks, and you love your kids, but the games still come, and you got to put somebody in. And Patty did a great job being ready to play.
Talking about Patty, I'd say he's kind of like your 10th man. Who's just going to go in and hop into that game. And I think has the highest batting average right now, and he's drawing those walks. And he's hitting the homers. So how important is it for you guys to have a guy like that who can just hop on in there when Johnny can't play, or you want to rest Stokely?
Yeah, you have to have depth. But you're making me think here maybe you shouldn't be a 10th man. Maybe you should be a top 6 man. Just lead the team in batting average.
He is leading the team in batting average.
I know.
62 at bats.
Yeah, no doubt. But Patty's going to give you a good at bat. And the one thing he's learned to do now is if you take him for granted, he'll be on time for that fastball, and he can hit a ball up in the net, But you need that depth. You need guys because you're going to have injuries. I'm always thinking what if this happens? What if that happens? Moving guys around, like we worked Casey Cook at first base today because Johnny's out. What if Stokely got hit by a pitch or something?
Which he did.
which he did. And you want to be prepared as much as you can in every aspect. But, you know, you play. I got some good advice from a coaching buddy of mine that's won a couple of national championships. And he said, you know, you want your guys to play well every game. Some games are just not going to play well, and you have to hope that you still find a way to win. And that's what our guys did tonight. But they know it's a great group. I mean, they know that tomorrow we just got to keep getting better, and that's what we'll focus on.
Stat. I'm gonna ask a pitching question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. 11 guys tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You pitched a couple matchups in there, but what was the thought process going in there? Obviously a staff day, but were you looking for things specifically from specific pitchers to take forward?
Well, at this time of year, you know, I used to like, as a pitching coach, like I felt like, okay, this is when we're going to figure out who our top 8 guys are roughly, 7 or 8. Because if you look at a stat sheet, it doesn't matter what team it is throughout the country. 6, 7, maybe 8 are going to do the bulk of the pitching on every team. If you just research it, I mean, that's the way it works, especially the better teams. Then you got to figure out how to use those. And you got a couple matchup guys. So we feel like we've shrunk our staff a little more. The reason we started Dalton Pence is because we also feel like he's one of our top 8 pitchers. And he needed to pitch today. We had him at a 40 pitch count, but when we jump on him like that and it's 7-0, you know, and we got Thursday, Friday, Saturday instead of Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got him out. Cam has been throwing better and better. His velocity's starting to go up. He's athletic. He's going to pitch a lot for us. You know, we went in today thinking, okay, we won't use Poston, even though they've all got 3 days rest, so they would throw bullpens anyway. But we won't use Poston and AC unless we have to. So we didn't have to use them a lot, thankfully. And the rest of the guys, we just want to get them in there and see how they looked and see if we can use those guys in certain matchup situations, right? Like if the game's closer right there, we're not letting Berkwich face a right-handed hitter. We're going to go ahead and get him out. But right there, we're trying to save some guys. But I do feel like we're starting to zero in more, and Dalton's going to be a big part of that bullpen. He could also start if we needed him to, but we feel like with Dalton, Poston, and AC, you know, that's a pretty good back-end combination. And I don't know if you're watching the game against Georgia Tech. I don't mean to ramble on, but Poston's second outing, you know, his velocity started to jump a little bit. He's up to 95 today. He was 91, 93. He might have touched a 94. AC's AC. And then Dalton, you know, you take away that East Carolina game, he's been good. If you just flush that game down the toilet, and one of those hits against East Carolina was a bleeder on the line. So, you know, I feel like we're starting to make some progress as far as who we're going to use when and just stick to those guys.
With Dalton, I mean, we talked to this a couple weeks ago now about, you know, starting to throw that cutter a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, how much of a key has that really been to what we've seen these last couple of weeks, especially?
Yeah, his best pitch is his fastball. I mean, he used a ton against South Carolina, and you saw what they did to LSU starter. I mean, they can hit. Dalton's got, he's left-handed, he hides the ball, and the fastball is going to play up. You know, the cutter is going to be good, really good for him, especially against lefties. It's got a late dive. And if you look at his stats, he's actually even a little bit better against righties because he's got a really good changeup. But he's also a confident kid. He's athletic, and deception matters. You know, if you watch his delivery, he hides the ball, and he's a worker, so he recovers well. So I'm excited to have, you know, to see what he's going to do in the second half as one of our go-to relievers, because we started the season with him as our closer. And then, you know, some other things happened, and looking back on it, I would have liked to maybe start him more often, but it is what it is. And, you know, he's one of our best pitchers, so we're going to use him in the biggest situations moving forward.
One more.
You kind of look at the rotation. I mean, obviously, big start for Max there last Thursday.
Yep.
And Connor's been pretty consistent. I guess when you look at that 3-spot with Jake, you know, obviously
Yep.
really strong coming out of the gate these last few. Just kind of, where would you kind of assess where he's at, and could Dalton maybe factor in there at all?
Yeah, he could. But Jake, you know, I like Knapp, and that's why we didn't pitch him today. We were going to start him because it was weird, like having a Tuesday and everybody had 3 days rest. I don't know if that's ever happened, right? I mean, we usually play a Saturday game, but because of Friday, everybody had 3 days. Everybody was rested. But I feel like with Knapp, like his off speed is not where it was before those 2 weeks. And we really need to have an extended bullpen where we can work on that off speed and improve that off speed. So we made that decision. You know, Coach Gaines was on the road yesterday, but I talked to him about it. We just decided, okay, let's don't use Knapp and let's throw a bullpen for him tomorrow to get him ready. But we would like for him to be able to be like he has been besides those 2 outings. and give us a power lefty out of the bullpen. Because Dalton is different than our other lefties because he can stay in righties and lefties and do whatever we need him to do. And keep your eye on Padgett. I think that's a freshman that he just keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming, and he tons of strikes. Doesn't have many strikeouts yet, but it's almost like he does too many strikes. He's got to learn to throw balls when he gets to 0-2 and put guys away like Brian Moran used to. But when you have a guy with that good a command, if his stuff jumps up, you feel good about what you're seeing.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.